Hi, this is Ron from RJM Music, and today we're showing you our new Mastermind LT product, which is a small, low-cost MIDI controller with a ton of flexibility. It inherits a lot of features from our larger Mastermind GT and PVC products, but we kind of condensed it down into a pedalboard-friendly format, and it still has tons of configurability and MIDI capabilities. So here we have a demo pedal board I've been working on. It's not quite complete yet, but it's complete enough for the purposes of this demo. And what we have is, of course, a Mastermind LT in the corner there. And underneath, we have a mini effect gizmo, and it's wired up to 5 pedals. The first 3 loops go to the compressor and these 2 drives here. And then the next 2 loops we have the Strymon Mobius and the Eventide H9 both in pre-post mode, where half of the pedal can be used in front of an amp and half of it can be used in the amp's effects loop. And so what we've done here is taken the pre side of the Mobius and the H9 and put those into loops 4 and 5 on the mini effect gizmo. And so the mini effect gizmo, if you're not familiar with it, basically will take MIDI commands from the Mastermind LT and switch those pedals in and out of the signal path on command. And on the amp effect loop side, the signal goes through the Strymon Mobius and then the timeline and then the H9, and those ones are not in the mini effect gizmo signal path, but we basically use the pedal's built-in own true bypass switching in this case to keep the amount of switching loops to a minimum. Some of the other hardware we have on here, we have a Mission SP1 RJM expression pedal, and this plugs into the Mastermind LT, and you can have it send commands to the MIDI enabled pedals to control, effect level, modulation rate, any of the available MIDI parameters on any of those pedals. And so it's a very versatile tool for doing real-time changes. Underneath we also have the new Strymon Zuma power supply running the whole show here, powering everything on the board. So what we're going to do is set up a real basic configuration here. We're going to have the Mastermind LT set up for direct access or instant access and presets. The LT has 768 possible presets, and each one of those can send program changes to the MIDI pedals to change the effects, and also bypass or enable any of the effects using the mini effect gizmo. The Mastermind LT also has 2 function switches which can be used to control channel switching on an amp, and those are also programmable for every preset as well. So out of the box, the Mastermind LT is configured with 2 button pages, and this is a really important concept on the LT and all of the Mastermind products, where you can have the buttons do different things on different pages. When you power up the LT, it's in a mode where you can access presets using the 4 preset buttons on the bottom and the bank up and bank down buttons. Pressing the function button in the upper left corner switches you to the IA, or instant access page, and that one allows you, in its default configuration, to turn on any of the 5 loops in the mini effect gizmo and control the 2 function switches as well. Using the built-in setup on the Mastermind LT, you can modify those button pages and create more button pages, up to 16 different ones, each one with a completely different configuration. And in all cases, the function button in the upper left corner will switch between the different pages for you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we set this all up. Setup's pretty simple. What we'll first do to get into setup mode on the Mastermind LT is to hold the 1 and 3 buttons, and in about 3 seconds you enter setup mode. The first thing we need to do is tell it what kind of devices are connected. So to navigate this menu, the labels on the left sides of the buttons tell you what the button does in setup mode. So these 2 buttons move you up and down through the menu, and these ones change the value of the currently selected item. This one selects, and this one exits and backs up to the previous menu. The buttons that are active at the moment will light up for you to kind of guide you, to tell you what you can actually do here. So we're just going to move down one item to edit devices, and then we're going to select, And you see there's already a mini effect gizmo in there, so we're good there. So we go down to device number 2, and now we hit select. It says type and unknown basically. So we hit select, and then we go down, and we're going to the next one we're going to set up is the Strymon timeline. We have a list of built-in manufacturers here that we've pre-programmed, so you don't need to know as much about these pedals or refer to their manuals so much. So we go to Strymon, select, timeline, select. Now all these parameters here are basically just come out of the built-in database, so you don't need to edit many of these. The only one that you need to mess with is the MIDI channel here, and it's important that each one of your MIDI devices is on a different channel. The mini effect gizmo starts on MIDI channel 1 by default, so we're going to keep it there. So we're going to set the timeline to MIDI channel 2. And this has to be set on the timeline as well. You're going to have to refer to your pedal manual to see how that's done. But both the sender and the receiver need to be set to the same MIDI channel for it to work correctly. So now we exit out. Now we can see we have 2 devices defined. We're going to go to slot 3, select, select, down to Strymon again. Now we have a Mobius, and this one, likewise, we're just going to set this to MIDI channel 3, and then we're going to repeat it for the H9. And so we go, oops, wrong button, that would be better. Eventide, H9. And this one is on MIDI channel 4. So do that, make sure all your pedals are set the same way, and you've got your devices set up. So one more thing we want to do here in the setup menu is set up another button page. So to do that, we go to Edit Buttons, and you see we have a blank page, and you can have, if you don't set a name for a page, then it doesn't appear on the screen, and it gives you more room to see the current preset number and all that. So on the first preset and bank selection page, we don't name that page anything. The second one is IAFN, which is shorthand for instant access and function. We'll get to that in a bit. So the first available page is page 3. So we hit select, and now we can name it, but we're not going to at the moment. And what we are going to do is change the type from off to device PC. And it'll ask you if it's okay to change the button page, and we can hit yes. Alright, and then if we wanted to, we can edit these are the actual button definitions now on the page. And in a minute we'll show you what this really means, but we have a device 2 minus, device 2 plus, and so on for device 3 and device 4. There's only one thing we need to change, and we're going to go to the device 4 one. We're going to hit select, and we're going to go down, and we can see that it's set up to control the H9. And the only thing we need to do here is change this bypass CC thing. Basically, it's by default, this is the MIDI command that it needs to send to the pedal to tell it to bypass itself. The default CC it uses, 102, happens to be what Strymon pedals like. We need to change it to what the Eventide pedals want. And so we're going to hold this down, and the buttons start repeating faster, so it doesn't take quite so long. You can start seeing that we get actual names of these CCs as we get to commands that the H9 will actually recognize. And if we go down to number 10, it's actually bypass. So we exit, do the same for Dev 4 Plus, and we're going to drop this one down to number 10 as well. And if you're using something other than Eventide or Strymon, you're going to have to look up, well, either look up in your manual, or if it's a pedal that's listed in the Edit Devices page, you will be able to find one of these commands probably that's called bypass. And so we just want to make sure that's selected. Okay, so we are now set up here. So let me show you what this all means. So we start in the normal preset and bank selection page, and as we just press the buttons, we go to our different presets. We have each preset, or presets are grouped in a bank of 4, And so if we hit bank up, we now say that we have presets 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's waiting for us to select one of these. So we can say, okay, we're on preset 8 now. And you can continue to access all of your presets that way. And when you're in this selection mode, it will tell you what all of these presets are and what they're called before you actually go and select one. You can, of course, rename all of these presets as you like. We're not going to get into that here, but of course you can name them something that means a lot more than just preset 1, for example. So we are going to set up some presets here, and so what we'll do is start on preset 1. We're going to press the function button once. And so on this page, and this, again, the page can be renamed here to something that is more meaningful to you, but in this mode, buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 control the 5 true bypass loops in the mini effect gizmo, and you'll see that they light up in different colors, and they actually even tell you what they do when you press them. But so these turn on specific effects. In this case, we'll say on preset 1, I just want to have this compressor on, which is in loop 1. So I press that. You'll also notice that the indicators at the top here, which are programmed to follow the state of buttons in page 2, the indicator number 1 lights up because we've turned on loop 1 here. So now what about the MIDI pedals? We're going to press function again, and now we go to this page 3 that we just created. And so now we have 3 pairs of buttons, and what these do is select the presets on each device. And so if we go to these ones control the timeline, the first button in the list, and so, or well, more specifically, they control device number 2 in the device list, which happens to be the timeline. And so as we go up and press device up, it steps through the timeline and bumps it up another preset. And likewise, this one bumps it down. And so on this one, we control the Mobius in slot number 3. And likewise, this one is the H9 in slot 4. If you don't want a pedal to be on for a particular preset, let's say we're only going to have the timeline on, you can hold either one of these buttons in this pair, and they'll switch to red, and now this pedal is now bypassed for this preset, or for the moment at least, and this one will also do. So it's bypassed. So we've set up our pedals, which ones are on, which ones are off, and which preset, and let's say we want preset 5 on the timeline. So now, to save all this, we can hold the function button, and after a few seconds it says stored. So now every time we select preset 1, it's going to select preset 5 on the timeline, bypass the Mobius and the H9, and turn on the compressor, and bypass anything else that isn't being used. So we can go back to the preset page, select preset 2, and we can do the same thing. We press the function button, and let's say for this one, we want to stack both of our drive pedals, and we're going to turn on the H9 in the pre-position, like before the amp's input, which is in loop 5. There's only 5 loops in a mini amp gizmo, or mini effect gizmo. Now we press the function button to select our mini effect gizmo loops, and at this time we're going to stack our 2 drive pedals, 2 and 3, and we're also going to turn on the pre-section of the H9, which is in mini effect gizmo loop 5. We'll hit the function button again, and now we can select presets. We're going to set our H9 to be preset 10. We don't want the Mobius, and we don't want the timeline. And so now we can save that by holding the function button. Now, we'll do one more preset, preset 3. Press the function button, and let's say on this one we just want to use the Mobius in loop 4 in the pre-position. And over here, we'll keep the timeline on preset 2, and the Mobius on preset 4, and no H9. And we store. So now we have 3 presets. Each one, you can see the indicators changing here. It's also changing on the pedals, and each one is instantaneously calling up presets on your pedals and bypassing or activating each pedal as desired. The only other thing I'll show you real quick is the function switching. If you have an amp that has a 1 or 2 button foot switch, chances are the Mastermind LT can control that directly. And so what we do, we'll edit this back into our presets. We'll say, typically by default, if the function switches are off, the amp is just in the clean channel with no features turned on. Let's say we have an amp that has 2 channels plus a boost. What we can do is on preset 2, go to this page, and the function switches are accessed by holding buttons 5 or 6. Holding button 5 here turns on function switch 1, holding button switch turns on function switch 2. So we'll say for this one we want the drive channel of the amp, so we're going to hold 5. It switches on. There isn't an indicator here, but up in the upper left the number 1 turns on, saying function switch 1 is now on. And we're going to save this. Now we go press the button twice to go back to the preset screen, and let's go to preset 3, and we'll say this time we want both the drive channel and the boost turned on. We go to this page, we hold button 5, we hold button 6, and so now 1 and 2 are on. And returning to the preset page, you'll see that those switch along with the pedals and everything else. So that's the basics of the Mastermind LT. You can connect your LT to a PC or Mac, and we have some very in-depth editor software, and you can do much more advanced editing, and you can go way beyond what the basics of the onboard editing allow. But generally this should give you all you need to do a simple pedal board like this. Be on the lookout for more videos in the future, and certainly check out our forum on our website at rjmmusic.com, and that's where you'll find tips and discussion about this product.